off my glasses first. My glasses. I can't see without my glasses. My interpretation of Velma. Hi, strangers. I'm back. Welcome back. Welcome to It's Been a Minute. Sorry for being MIA. I was safely traveling for the last couple of weeks, or actually just traveled one place and then was there. And I kind of wanted to just be there and be present, and decided not to film any videos or put out any videos during that time. But I am back now. We're moving, we're grooving, and I'm coming at you with a very, very, very late October wrap up. I am going to be talking about the very few books that I read in October. We're going to be going over my monthly TBR challenge. Let's see how I did. And just going to be talking to you guys about my feelings, my vibes, about the books I read in October, and some other stuff, I guess. Stay tuned. But without further ado, let's just get into the first book that I read. So the first book that I read in October was Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. This was my book club pick book. It was actually my turn to choose the book, and so I chose this one. It is a memoir about this therapist. Her name is Lori, and it's about her experiences as a therapist as well as her experience going to a therapist. I actually did a reading vlog of this one, so I will link it, put it somewhere attached to this if you want to check that out as well. I loved this book. I thought that it was a great way to start October. Really got the fun vibes flowing. I gave it, I believe, a 4 out of 5 stars. The only downsides about it were that I thought it was a bit too long and a bit redundant. I definitely feel like there was places that could have been fleshed out a little bit more. But all in all, I really loved this book. It was so much fun to read. It's definitely up there as one of my favorite memoirs that I've read this year, maybe top 5. Wow, bold statement, I know. But I'm not going to speak too much about it. Again, if you want to check out that other video, I think I go more in depth into my feels about this book there. So the second book is where we really get to see the October vibes, October spooky season come in full throttle. My second book was The Woman in the Window. I liked this book. It was definitely a suspense thriller thing going on. It was very interesting. Without giving too much away, we are introduced to our main character. She has some neighbors that she's watching, and she thinks she witnesses a murder. Dun dun dun. What happens after, what ensues after, is just a lot of chaos and trying to figure out what is the truth, what is not the truth, what can we take as factual, what is just made up. Whole lot of suspense and unknowing things going on. The third book that I read was I'm Not Dying With You Tonight. I listened to this as an audiobook, and I initially wanted to read this because one of the co-authors is Kimberly Jones, and I saw a very moving and wild, inspiring, thought-provoking video of her discussing the social contract between people of color in the United States and basically the society that we have. I will link that down below. Definitely check it out. It's about, I don't know, 16 minutes or something, but it's so worth it. Please just watch it. It's great. For some context, this book follows two girls throughout one night. We have Lena, who is black, Campbell, who is white, and it is them having to rely and lean on one another throughout this night as they are trying to get back to safety after their city kind of comes alive with riots over racial inequality and racial injustice. A lot happens in this book, a lot. Every time you think that the story has to be over, they finally have to be finding some relief. No, they don't. And it just gets crazier and crazier. Overall, I thought it was pretty good, but I do feel like some of the topics that they were trying to bring forward, such as racial biasness, wasn't discussed fully. I feel as though they could have really gone deeper into it and really dug into those conversations more, but it sometimes felt like they would touch upon it and then like back away from it. The fourth book that I read was Then She Was Gone. It is another suspenseful thriller. I was trying to keep in line with the spooky October season. Interesting book. I actually did a book review of this one as well, which I will link somewhere amongst these things on the screen. I thought this was a fine book. Let me not get ahead of myself. So, this book follows a mother, Laurel, trying to find answers about her 15-year-old daughter who had disappeared. We don't know if she disappeared because she was taken or if she ran away. That's kind of the premise of the story. I'm gonna full stop right there. I don't read too many suspenseful thriller novels, so on that note, I did see kind of almost everything that was happening. It wasn't really that surprising to me, but the book was good. You know, I still enjoyed reading it or listening to it because it was an audiobook, but I didn't have that suspenseful moment, you know, which was unfortunate. But, you know, can't happen with every suspenseful thriller book, I guess. So, little intermission here. We've already discussed 4 books. I will discuss 2 more later, but it doesn't get better. So let me just say, October was not my month for reading, I guess. I only found like one of the books that I read to be truly interesting or like really good. All the others were 3s, around the 3 mark, which is like fine, but it's just an average book to me. And the only one that really stood out was Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. I don't know why it was, but October in general, I started off slow. I didn't start reading many of my books until maybe halfway through, or really getting into the groove until about halfway through the month. And then I just was not picking books that I was enjoying, which was really unfortunate. And I wanted to talk on this because I don't know if I'm seeing non-existent patterns here, but I think it might be because it was October, I wanted to read thrillers and scary books and really get into the vibe. And it plays on to why I don't like creating TBRs for myself, because I don't like having to be confined to reading certain types of books or certain books because I said so or because I feel like I need to. So I thought that was just an interesting thing that I noted or noticed, was maybe because I felt like I needed to read a bunch of scary, spooky books, I read them and I wasn't enjoying them. But you know, we are here for any steps forward are steps of progress. It is not a race to read every book. Do not compare yourself to other people and their reading schedules and how many books they read. It's not important. It's important how much you read. But for me, it's for how much I read. But yes, so that is my small intermission. Let's get through to the last 2 books that I will be discussing. So one I will only briefly touch upon because I started reading it in October, and since it fits with my monthly TBR challenge, I'm including it, but I'm also going to be including it in November because while I started in October, I was not anywhere close to being finished by the end of that month. And that is Pride and Prejudice. I am reading this right now. I'm about 55% of the way done. Loving it. I love a good romance, so that is kind of a relief because I was very nervous that I was hyping this book up so much and I was hyping Jane Austen up so much that I wasn't gonna like it, but I do. Yay. To round it all out though, the last book that I read in October was The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I also listened to this as an audiobook. October was full of audiobooks. I guess I just did not feel like picking up a book. But this book, did I like it? Not much. I just didn't really get into the story at all. Like I think I gave this like maybe a 2. I could have gone down to a 1. I will say this, I think it did have something to do with the narrator. I just don't think that the narrator did a good job. I can't think of off the top of my head who the narrator was, but yeah, because of that, I wasn't really connecting with the storyline at all or the characters at all. And so the book kind of just like, yeah, I read it, but like I didn't enjoy it. I didn't really get anything out of it kind of dealio. If you do not know, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is about kind of the dual personalities of man. Dr. Jekyll is like this great guy, blah, 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 blah. But then there's Mr. Hyde and he's like despicable and disgusting and like a murderer. And lo and behold, they're one and the same. And Dr. Jekyll had actually found this way of taking all of his badness and making it into man form. And the man was Mr. Hyde. But then through time, Dr. Jekyll was becoming weaker and Mr. Hyde was taking up more of his life force, I guess. I don't know. At this point, I don't even know what I'm saying. But yes, 2 out of 5 for me. You know, it was a quick read. It was a quick listen. So give it a go if you'd like to. Let me know what your thoughts were. If you have already read this, what'd you think? All right, that brings us to our conclusion. Let us now look back at how I compared to my monthly TBR challenge. As a reminder, my monthly TBR challenge is to read a self-development book, read my book club pick, read a book by a favorite author or a book that was turned into a TV show or movie, read a book by a POC author, at least one, read a classic. Other 2 maybe ones is listen to an audiobook and read a rom-com. So for a self-development book, I am putting Maybe You Should Talk to Someone in this category because I got a lot out of it. I think more so than a memoir, this shared a bunch of snippets of knowledge and just really was a thought-provoking read for me. So I think I personally developed mentally from this book. Self-development. And with Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, that also crosses off my book club pick. There we go. For a book by a favorite author or a book turned TV show or movie, I think that Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice could go into this category, but also The Woman in the Window, because that was turned into, I think it was a TV show, a movie. It's on HBO, I think. So there's that one. For a book by a POC author, we have Kimberly Jones and Gilly Siegel's I'm Not Dying With You Tonight. And lastly, for a classic, I am putting Pride and Prejudice or The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for that category. I listened to several of these books as an audiobook, so there goes that one. And for a rom-com, I feel like Pride and Prejudice basically is the definition of that. And even though I didn't finish it, I'm counting it anyways. It's my challenge. All in all, October was a hard one for me. I definitely don't feel good about the books that I read. I feel like there are so many other books that I could have read and probably enjoyed more, but you know, if you don't read the duds, how will you know when you read an amazing book? There's a saying somewhere like that someone smart once said. Sunshine, rain, right? Here we go. That is my October wrap up. Finally bringing it out to you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you read any of these books, let me know what your thoughts were down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.